All right, so yesterday's video, I was kind of praising the Hill, right? They were doing some good stuff, and now they're a little iffy about Yang. And the day I upload is the day they upload. Imagine that. So they have this tech expert there, tech expert, and she makes I guess a lack of points against Yang's proposals, and it's kind of really sad when you think about it and you listen to what she's got to say. She doesn't really push back on much because there's not that much to push back on, you know what I mean? So we're going to go through this video, and we're going to break down what she says step by step and how it's utter nonsense. It really is. So let's go ahead and play the video.
The internet's great promise and gift was openness. The only problem has been is that neoliberals sold us all a bill of goods in the 1990s by telling us that openness has zero costs. Now we can instead recognize and mitigate those costs without destroying the whole system as we know it. Or let's take a central element of Yang's proposal, establishing data as a property right and allowing individuals to be compensated for the use of that data if it's used by a big tech company like Google or Facebook when selling to advertisers. This again is a bit of a problem, as tech expert Gigi Sohn said on the show recently. Let's take a listen.
I also think that nobody is ever going to get compensated for what their data is worth. What is it worth? What is my personal information worth to my broadband company or to Google or Facebook? Who's actually going to put a dollar sign on it? I think it's impractical, and I also think it will only lead to more litigation and more claims of, this is mine, I must guard it jealously. Look, the Supreme Court has said you can't copyright the information in the phone book because that's information that everybody should have. But I think that's the logical next step of something like this, is the information in the phone book ought to be copyrighted, and let's start have lawsuits and litigation. Yeah. So that's not a conservative principle.
All right, so I've jotted down some notes here. She's completely full of crap. It's apparent. I've put my full rebuttal in their comment section, so you can go check that out and read it in its entirety. But her first problem that she brings up, this boomer lady, she says, how do you put a price on someone's data? Well, tech seems to be able to do it. Big tech companies, they do it constantly. There's all kinds of, prices they put on data. So let's go ahead and say that, how do you put a price on someone's data? Well, Yang lays out quite a few ways, but there's one easy way of many, is to take the sum total of every company's entire record and any and all collected data transactions that has ever been sold for any dollar amount at all, and then average that out per year. Whatever that average would be the total dollar amount worth of each. If you take an average of everybody's data that's ever been sold, you just average that out. Well, on average, everybody's data would be X amount of dollars. Pretty easy. For a tech expert, you would think that she would be on that, right? Anyway, okay, let's move on. Her next gripe was, who decides that dollar amount? Okay, rebuttal. That new governmental body that regulates the power of the tech oligarchy, that new governmental body for social media and stuff that Yang's trying to propose, they simply just make it a rule or a law from its inception that each company is to record all of its data collection and transactions, and then produce those records yearly to that governmental body. And then, however, the average is divided and sent to us via maybe a check, online credit, a kickback, it takes time. However we get compensated for that, or however we get represented for that. Those are just some of the easiest ways to compensate that valuable information that has been stolen and traded without our knowledge, other than what Yang has already proposed. And he lays out quite clearly on his platform, so you guys should go and read that, especially tech experts. If you want to debunk him, you should probably be reading his his actual policies, so you know what you're talking about. Anyway, let's move on. Nice boomer lady says, what's next? The yellow pages? Rebuttal. No one but boomers use the yellow pages anymore, but I'll humor you, okay? Let's say you replace data with yellow pages or phone books like back in the pre-internet days, right? So now let's say that there's a group or a company or someone who looked up people in those yellow pages and phone books and then was going around day to day, address to address, looking into their window, listening to their phone calls, listening to their conversations, seeing what they eat, what they shop for, what they buy, what they use on a day-to-day basis, and pretty much recording anything you have interest in that can be sold back to you. That group person company records it and then goes off and then sells all of that information to advertisers or other business people, so they know how to better manipulate you into buying more, right? That is what online data is, and it's extremely valuable with many more uses than that. So more so than a phone number or an address. There's a lot more to it. You can see trends, trend history of what people buy, what times they buy, how frequently they buy. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into that. It's very valuable, actually. Data is everything. Amassing huge quantities of data is everything in the online world nowadays. I don't think the goal is saying that we want to possess the rights to safeguard our data or to buy and trade ourselves, even though we probably should be able to. We were saying that it's being traded for monetary gain, and they're profiting off us, and we're being left out. It's just not right. It's not right. So let's address her next claim. She goes on to say, the boomer lady, Supreme Court said no copyright on the phone book because it's open public knowledge. Okay, well, if data was open, public knowledge, publicly available knowledge, like the phone book, I would agree with you. But it isn't, and if it is, why is there profit to be made from buying and selling said data? Couldn't you just go to an open database and access it, and nobody should have to buy? Google should be able to sell data to any other company, because that company should just be able to go and access it because it's publicly available, right? Well, wrong. It's not publicly available, and the profit from it and the people are, again, left out. So, yeah, sorry, those two things are just not comparable. You just kind of missed the ball on that. And then the kicker is, my favorite part is she goes on to say, that's not a conservative principle. Well, my rebuttal would be, yeah, well, that's because Yang isn't a conservative. He's, you could tell because he's kind of running in the Democratic primary. Oh man. So my personal opinion, my personal takeaway on this is that there's a strong likelihood that one or more big tech companies are, paying lots of money to have shills like this nice boomer lady to go out there and spout nonsense against Yang because he's rising in the polls. He's dropping $1 million ad buys. His Twitter, his online engagement is so much more than anybody, except for that of maybe Bernie, but that's only because there's a lot of people who haven't really woken up to the fact that he supported Hillary. And if you're complicit with corruption one time, you'll be complicit with corruption another time. So I really can't take you on your word that you're actually going to do all the stuff you say you're going to do. Which is sad because I used to be, supporter, but now I'm not. So yeah, that's what my personal takeaway is. She's not really in touch with what's really happening online. Every comparison she makes is antiquated and doesn't really make any sense. There's easy ways to put a price on someone's data. Google does it every day. There's easy ways to decide dollar amounts. I mean, if you can adjust for inflation and figure out, our GDP with everything that goes on in transactions in this, come on. It's crazy for her to even to spout some of this stuff. So, there might be a couple little weird areas in Yang's proposal, but proposals are subject to change. And Yang's a man of the people, so if there's anything that we, as a mass of people, don't want, he wouldn't include, I wouldn't imagine. So I'm sorry, Ms. Boomer Lady, you're out of touch. You don't know what you're talking about, and I hate for you to get corrected this way, but it is what it is. So that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you tomorrow.